Collaboration is very important. The most important aspect in B2B design is trust. It can make and break your business, right? So they need tools they can trust, tools that feel reliable, and they are not going to use it because stakes are really high. And the last thing I would say, that never lose your sense of wonder. The best designers are those who stay curious, passionate, and no matter how much they grow in their career.
Hey there, welcome to Design Oops with Indiefolio. Today we have Gopal Upadhyay with us, who's the Director of Design at Moglix. Gopal has had an incredible journey where he started off as an animator, and then over the years he's become a design leader. We talk about shifting careers, working in B2B, B2C, service versus brand side, and obviously unlock a lot of advice for young designers.
Hey Gopal, thanks for your time and welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My pleasure.
I'm very excited to talk to you because I've seen a lot of people be in the same boat as you in their careers where they wanted to get into communication or arts or some kind of design. And then somewhere in their career, they realized that they wanted to make a jump into UX. And I think, you've done that successfully. But I see a lot more people, who are in the market who probably are still confused on really how to make that jump. So I'd love to kind of unpack a bunch of things with you today, but let me start by asking you, how did your creative career start? If I'm not wrong, you studied sociology. So if you can kind of unpack, how the entire journey started, it'll be really exciting.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I'm this kid. I born in 1985, and I brought up watching Disney cartoons. I used to watch a lot DuckTales, Uncle Cruise and all, Bill Mermaid, Aladdin and all, and I was very fascinated about those animations. I used to fight with my siblings, like I want to watch this, and at that time, D2 was very famous to have all those, animated series and all coming on, I guess Saturday or Sunday. I used to watch them a lot. Somewhere unconsciously, there was a designer which was waking up inside me. I gradually started scribbling. I gradually started making those cartoons on paper and pencil. And somewhere I knew that I wanted to become a designer. I didn't know about the career at that point in time because it was not there at all. So after finishing my 12th, I was really, worried about what shall I do. I'm not really interested about doing all of this. I wanted to do something different. I started figuring out institutes where I can go and learn the techniques of animation. At that time, Arena was there. Arena was the only animation institute. I don't know when it started. It was still there when I was young. So, yeah. So I thought to take animation there, but it was too expensive for me at that time. It was around 50, 60,000 for that course still in. I was talking about somewhere in 2004, 5. It was pretty expensive at that point in time for me. So then I found one institute where I learned all the techniques of animation and I became an animator. Started my career as an animator.
Fantastic. So what kind of prompted you to kind of do more of like a BA? Was that just, I think, family pressure, or did that really influence your career going forward?
No, there was no family pressure. Of course, they always wanted me to do something great in my life. They wanted me to earn well. And initially when I said and went and said that I want to become an animator, and they never heard of this word, like what is animation, dude? Then I showed them, can you see all these TV commercials? Can you see all this animation which is happening there? Then they tried to understand. I don't know whether they understood it or not, but they went on with my hunch, like, okay, if he's saying something, he must be knowing it. I was one of those studious students in my home, and I was really regarded as a good child in my house. So whatever I said, they went on with that, and yeah.
Superb. How did you make the jump then from flash animations to actually doing product design?
This is again a very interesting story. So I started my career as an animator, and I never knew that I'm going to do UI. And I didn't know about UI because I was completely doing animation for around 3 years in a row. And Suddenly I got a call from a company which is called Kiwi Technologies, where I joined in back in 2010. And they would keep on calling me for the interview, and I was keep on denying that, hey, I can't come, I can't. I was a very lazy, boy. And since animation is a very hectic job, if you know, I mean, it requires a lot of work. You have to go through a lot of cycles, design, illustrate, animate, hear it very carefully, the sound, and animate accordingly. It's a lot, it's a very tedious work. So once you are free, you want to rest, just want to chill, you don't want to go anywhere. But nevertheless, I went on for the interview, and when I started discussing with my profile, yeah, the founder had already previous e-learning experience as a company. So they thought that I'm going to be a good fit for the role, and I joined in there. Once I joined in there, then I got to know that I have to design for mobile apps. Like, what is this? I have never designed mobile apps. And I'm talking about 2010. So if you know, 2010 is the year when the iPad got launched. And on that year itself, I started designing for iPad, because I mean, they were from the entire team sits in the US, and they were in the market. They were from the publishing background previously, and the entire publishing market went crazy in the US, and they started creating the iPad version of all of their books. That's why they formed a company here, and I got to learn the technique of all the UI. That time I was only doing UI, because this was just the beginning in 2010. And then I started designing for iPad and iPhone apps. And that's how I got into the world of UI, later on
Fascinating.
UX. Yeah.
What do you think prompted the founder to actually hire you without really having any expertise in UI? Like, do you think something like that can happen in today's time?
Depends. So I showed them my portfolio. And when you are working on an e-learning platform, it has all those animations along with the UI which you see, where you interact with next, back, pause, and whatever functions you take. And at that time, that UI was really great from that point of view. From that time, from 2010 point of view, it was pretty fascinating. So he saw that UI, and he knew that, okay, this kind of UI he has to create. It's just that the dimension would change. And this is the desktop UI which he has created. He has to learn the techniques of how to fit it into iPad and iPhone. I guess that was the thing. And later on, I asked him, like, G, why did you? His name was Govinder Batra, so we called him G. So I asked him, like, why did you hire me? Then he said, I knew that you're gonna learn this very fast. So that's why.
Fantastic. I think that's a very cool story. Before I kind of hop into my next questions, I was very keen to ask this to you. Everybody talks about new trends and new tools and new techniques, but you've been in this industry across multiple functions for so long. Any particular tool which you miss now, which has gone away from existence?
It has almost gone from the existence, and I'm talking about Adobe Flash, with which I started my career. So back then, animation was my whole world, and one of the most memorable projects I worked on was a series of educational animation for 6th and 7th grade math students. I get to work over 1,000 unique and interesting ways to explain mathematical expressions. It was pretty fascinating to bring abstract concepts to life. So while I absolutely love UX design and solving complex problems, this is something I still miss, and it has taught me a lot as well. The best part of animation is that it teaches you a lot. It teaches you the concept of movement. It teaches you the concept of timing, how to connect with audience visually, and the best part is it teaches you. It makes you as a storyteller. Right? You are telling a story through visuals and animation, and these are the things which still inspire me as a designer today. I take inspiration from all those learnings till date. So yeah, it is somewhere in my blood now.
Awesome. I think animation also teaches you a lot of patience, and because it is, as you said in the start, so process oriented. It really also makes you understand that only once you do this is when you can move to that. And that, I think, is a brilliant skill. I actually started my creative journey learning animation from Arena, by the way. So I'm also like super excited to hear this from you. I want to now ask you, you worked with various kinds of companies, right? Unicorn startups, small companies, enterprises. And also I saw you had stints in the service side. If I am a creative person and I'm starting my career, what are the pros and cons of joining, let's say, a studio or an agency versus joining a company?
Okay, so you are talking about a service company versus a product company.
Product company, sorry, my bad, yes.
Yeah. So the main difference between joining a product and a service company is that the in service company, the project where you are working on is not your baby, it's someone else's baby, right? And if you're working in a product company, it's your baby. You're gonna have to raise that child to grow bigger and bigger, and eventually that baby will take care of you, right? If you are in a service based company, you create a baby and give it to someone else. Now it's on him where he gonna take that product, right? You will not be involved, so it's not emotionally attachment. This is the con. The pros is working with service company is that you get to work on various type of products. So you're working on a healthcare project, and then your next project could be somewhere related to sports, then TV, then this, then that. I mean, there's so many things which you get to learn. In Kiwi Technologies, I got to work on around 200 mobile apps in the span of 1.5 years there. So I learned a lot there. So you get to work on so much of variety. That's what you learn. But in a product company, you know how to create a product and then iterate it further to grow it bigger, like a banyan tree, right? So that's the basic difference between these two.
Fantastic. And do you think that a designer should first join a service company and then move to the product side, or vice versa?
Yes. I definitely, because this has been my journey as well. I may be biased here, but I think if you start your career in a service company or an agency where you get to work on various projects, and then you jump to, let's say you worked on 10 different projects and you like, let's say, healthcare. Now you can focus on joining somewhere healthcare where you can start creating your stuff there. So yeah, this is what I believe.
I feel, everybody tells young people to learn fast. And I think service companies or agencies genuinely help you learn fast because you're doing a bunch of things. You also, I think, get a good hang of getting good at non-design things in an agency where you'll have to convince people, you'll have to manage people, you'll have to kind of sell to a client, which are things which really help you shape your design leadership. What do you think?
This happens in product company as well now. It was not there earlier, but in product companies as well. So collaboration is one of the key. You have to conduct your primary and secondary research. So in primary research, you have to talk to all of your users, your business leaders. So you have to talk to many people. You have to convince them design. You have to showcase your design. You have to, and the interesting part is here, you not only have to showcase your design, but you have to showcase the expected impact as well. Like, you are going to do this, you are truly selling your design here. You're saying that, hey, I want to change this, let's say this checkout process from this to this. I'm going to reduce the friction, I'm going to reduce the steps, and by doing which our conversion will increase by, let's say, 5% or 10%, right? And that become your that becomes your key metrics, key KPI, which you're going to chase further once it gets released. And that becomes challenging for you, because once it gets released, you will look at the data point and you will see that whether it's happening or not. If it's not happening, you will come back to the whiteboard and start drawing those things again, and you'll. So yeah, these things are happening in product companies as well. But the difference, the one thing I would like to add here is the difference between a product company and service company is that sense of anonymity. So when you are talking in a product company, you know everyone and you are talking to them every time, right? He's your stakeholder, and whenever a new feature comes in, you will talk to the same person again and again, right? But in a service company, you have to talk to altogether different person every time. So that is a challenge which pushes you really hard to think and convince. So this takes extra edge when you are in a service company.
That's a very interesting point, and I don't see a lot of people talking about that. I want to now ask you about B2B, right? There is a lot of chatter around how B2B versus B2C, SaaS and enterprise versus consumer is very different. The world is very different. Now, you've been leading, I think, one of the best marketplaces for B2B in India in terms of design. When it comes to creating customer experiences in B2B, do you really feel that they're very different from B2C?
Yes,
Could
they are.
you unpack like your favorite differences?
Yeah. So there are a couple of things which are different in B2B versus B2C. So in B2B, things are very different. So let's say you are designing for B2B. So the first thing is that to understand that deeply complex workflow and transitioning them into the intuitive experiences. And one of the biggest challenge here is to balance functionality with simplicity. So if you are, let's say if you are designing for let me take an example of, let's say if you are designing a product for a manufacturing segment, right? So you have to understand each and every nuances of your process, then you will be able to create that product, right? This is one. And the worst part is, or the good part is, I don't know, every manufacturing plant will have its own process. Like if you have an e-commerce platform or if you have food delivery platform, most of the workflows remain same, right? But if you are in a B2B segment, the business needs, the business requirement changes, right? So this is one of the thing, and they have to often deal with tasks like bulk ordering, procurement approval, contract management, which are inherently complex. So the challenge lies in simplifying these processes without stripping away any critical functionality. You cannot compromise on that, right? Another hurdle is diverse user base, as I talked about. Like we cater to buyers, suppliers, sourcers, procurement managers, even logistic team, right? And they have their unique needs, right? So to provide them seamless interface to all your personas is again something really critical here. And the most important aspect in B2B design is trust, right? This emotional aspect is really important. So B2B users are making really high stake decisions that are gonna impact their business. It can make and break your business, right? So they need tools they can trust, tools that feel reliable, efficient, and tailored to the industry, right? This goes just beyond UX. It's about building confidence at every touch point. So till the time they are not confident enough to use your application, they are not going to use it because stakes are really high, right? So yeah, these are the things which are really critical while designing something for B2B versus B2C.
Superb. I fully agree, that like the kind of mindset which a person has while interacting with B2B is very different from B2C, where, as you very well said, you're not making like a knee-jerk reaction. Chalo, ye khareed lu, ye kha lu. It's big call. And that's why the product really needs to kind of blend with even service and help me understand, what's the right decision. Am I making the right decision here? Now I want to talk about the core of the podcast today, right, which is about design operations. Now, a lot of people think that when I am entering the career of product design, I will only design till I die. But that's very far away from the reality. In fact, the moment you become a design leader, your hands-on work keeps on decreasing. It's a lot more about making sure that my team is doing a great job. So you made that transition, right? I wanted to know, how was the transition like for you? Like, what are the areas designer needs to kind of sharpen in order to become a good design leader?
Yeah, so and this was quite surprising for me when I transitioned from an individual contributor to a leadership role. Right? It's not about what you design anymore. It's about empowering your team member and start thinking beyond the scope of the design. So early in my career as a hands-on designer, I loved digging into the nitty-gritty of the design, tweaking pixels, crafting user flows and all. But as I transitioned into the leadership role, I discovered this immense value of stepping back and thinking more as a product owner, the holistic point of view, right? It's not only those UI which I am working on, it's about the impact which will be created further, right? And it's not only UI, but also the front end, the back end, right? The services which is being called. There's so many things which is there, which you have to think, right? The role of UX designer and product manager is merging in many ways, right? So you have to start thinking as a product manager. In my point of view, in coming 5 to 10 years, the role of the UX or product designer and product owner will be merged, right? There are so many common things which they do, right? Both of them are doing the same thing in many of the things. So as a design leader, it's not just about creating user-friendly interfaces, but to understand the larger business context, aligning design goals with product strategies, prioritizing features, and making trade-offs that balances user need with business objectives, right? So yeah, so if someone wants to emerge as a leader, he should not only be concerned about the UI, he should start thinking from the overall product perspective, the business context perspective as well.
You mentioned a very important point, which is you to start like solving problems instead of taking off tasks. And to solve a problem, you have to understand the business context. How did you go about doing it? Because what happens is a lot of people who get into design, they're like, I don't like numbers. I'm very afraid of, charts. That's why I'm an artist. That's why I've gotten into this field of design. And when they hear, oh my God, business of design is so important, they get really scared with the point of view saying, I don't think I'll be good at it. So how did you upskill yourself? And if you have any advice to young designers, like how do you really understand business outcomes?
Yeah, that's very important. See, back in 2010, when we were designing a mobile application or web application, those were pretty simpler ones. Those were primarily utility applications, right? I want to do this, I can do this in 2 steps. But now, since everything is coming on application, whether it's web or mobile, doesn't matter. The things are getting complex and complex and complex. So there are few things till the time you don't understand, you will not be able to reach there. And this approach is rooted primarily into 3 principles. One is clarity. So till the time you don't have pure clarity of what you are working on, you will not be able to achieve that, right? So I ensure the team that they have a clear understanding of the business context. It's my duty to make them understand. They will not understand by themselves. It's my duty to make them understand. We just don't talk about what we are designing. We discuss why it matters, how it's going to impact the larger audience, right? The second thing, I gave my team the ownership of the above, right? I encourage them to propose bold ideas and experiment with the given constraint of the project, right? Till the time, see, sometimes people get bored that I have done this, I have a creative mindset and I'm not able to do this thing. You draw those lines, like within those lines you have to do these things. I believe that a leader should provide some ownership to the designer and say that, hey, these are the limitations which you have to, of course, stay within. But you can, go from here to there, whichever way you want, right? This is the thing. And lastly, I focus on purpose. It's very important that I remind the team at every pixel they design, every interaction they craft is solving a real problem for someone out there. It has a sense of purpose, right? Which fuels the creativity and keeps the workaround, right? So it's very important for my team to understand the real value of it. So if I set all of these things and make them understand all of these, they will gradually know that it's not going to happen in one day for sure. In B2B, your team will start delivering at least after 1 year, I would say.
Wow. So patience is very important.
Yeah. So while hiring, you have to understand that is this person going to stay with me at least for 3-4 years? Because it will take at least 6 months to 1 year to make him understand that what is happening, what is going on. Because if he is coming from purely UI background and non-business background, he will not understand what is happening. It's purely difficult. Now all those jargons, if he get to hear, he will be like, hey, what is happening, dude? I don't know what is this. He will switch the job. So
that prompts me to actually ask you a follow-up on hiring. You mentioned that when you're hiring, you have to look out for a particular kind of skills. If I'm a designer, I want to work with a design leader like you or in a company like yours. What are some best practices I should follow to make sure that I set a good impression and get a good job?
So as a designer, when I can tell you my story. while hiring what I look at.
Yeah.
So primarily I look from four perspective. The first thing is curious, whether this person is curious enough or not. Because design is what? Design is nothing but discovery. And you can only be able to discover if you are curious enough. Right? You got to have asked two questions again and again. That is why and what if. These two questions are really important. Like why this happened and what if this, like why am I designing this, why is this requirement there, and what if we don't design this, and what if we do instead of this. Like this kind of mindset is really really important, right? Second is adaptability. It's very curious, it's very important to have that adaptability mindset. Because since I'm working in Moglix and we have a lot of product at place, right? I take care of around 18 to 20 products, right? And I need a person who is agile enough to be moved from one product to another when it requires, right? So sometimes you need reinforcement in one product, like there is scarcity in one product, they want something to be built faster, so you want one designer to be there, two designers to be there, sometimes three designers to be there. Like so that hopping will happen often. So you have to have that mindset to be adaptive enough to switch from one product to another product. And third would be collaboration. Design cannot be done in silos, right? You should learn how to go out there and discuss. You should go and take out what you want, right? Hence sociology, hence psychology. These are the things which you got to learn before you getting into the design. Because you should know those tricky questions to ask. You cannot ask direct questions. You should learn to ask those indirect questions so that you get the clue and you start designing based on that. And the last thing would be alignment with the vision. So if that person is aligning with what doing. So let's say if I'm into B2B industry, I need to know whether he is interested in this industry or not. Maybe he is not interested. He is more of a gaming guy. He should rather go and join gaming industry, right? So that alignment with a vision of company is also very important. If he is just joining for the sake of money, he will leave the job because it's pretty different, right? Every industry is pretty complex and different. Even I was talking about gaming, it's very different. Right, a guy who is from B2B industry cannot go and thrive in gaming. Right, it
Right,
requires
absolutely.
altogether different mindset.
Absolutely. I think some fantastic advice, I think for anybody who's listening, I think these 4 points will really, really drive you to kind of, pitch yourself well, I guess, to a brand. You mentioned collaboration, and that is another thing I wanted to hint upon. Design managers responsible to make sure that communication is flowing cross-departmentally in an effective manner. You also mentioned understanding business, understanding product, understanding engineering are critical aspects. So are there any workflows or any particular frameworks which you use at Moglix which enables cross-departmental collaboration?
Yeah, so after working on multiple projects and experimenting on multiple design frameworks, we finally use Design Sprint Lite. It's the condensed version of traditional design sprint tailored to B2B needs. Right? It involves cross-functional teams coming together for short, focused session to ideate, prototype, and test the solutions. This ensures the design, engineering, and product stakeholders are aligned from the start, reducing the rework. Right? And in order to do this thing, there are few things which is really required to take care. Like one is every design starts with empathy. So you should know when and how often to go and talk to your users or product managers or business leader. I'm talking business leader from the B2B perspective, right? If you're not into B2B setup, you may be talking to someone else, right? You may have different set of product leaders, right? Third is collaborate early and often. So you don't have to wait to collaborate, right? If you need a call, just schedule and go get on the call, right? In my company, the rule is if there is something which is important, you don't schedule a call. You just walk into to his workstation and go and talk. So the first medium of discussion is go and have a discussion one-on-one. If that person is not available, make him a phone call And then either of two is not available, you can schedule a call for later, so that a time can be set to discuss this thing. So since everything is very fast paced, so you have to understand that mechanism of collaboration as well. And the third thing would be iterate. Like you go, you collaborate, you get some feedback, you iterate, you design, you develop, you make it live. It goes to the user will use it, there'll be some feedback, you look at the data, you look at the user, you get customer NPS, and based on that you will refine, right? So let's say our Moglix.com, that e-commerce portal, it began in 2015 and it's 2024. Next year we'll be completing 10 years. We have changed around 5 times everything.
Wow.
Right? So
Fantastic.
you have to iterate, and gradually in couple of years you will see everything gets changed. And then this journey continues. This is everlasting thing. You keep on improving.
Absolutely. I think change is the only constant,
Yes,
as they say.
definitely.
And would praise that. I want to follow up here. I think one annoying thing about cross-functional department is when business, engineering and product start giving design feedback. That अरे ये अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है, मुझे नहीं पसंद आ रहा है, इसको ऐसे करो, उसको वैसे बना दो, which really pisses off designers, saying अरे यार आपको क्या पता, So I constantly see design teams fighting with other teams for these reasons. How do you resolve such conflicts?
See, this problem can only occur if you have less idea of the product and that person in front of you is having more idea than you. If you know more than him, you can always win that argument. You can always. So the basic idea, and I have seen this with many designers, they are primarily focused on UI. They are really concerned about the aesthetics. They are really concerned about the colors and icons and every single thing. It is important. I'm not saying this is not important. But hey, this is the world of business. Everyone is looking out for profitability. Till the time you don't understand the context, till the time you don't understand the business, till the time you don't understand what is the revenue we are trying to create and what is our quarter-on-quarter expected revenue which we are looking for, you will not be able to justify the design. So maybe you are fighting for something which is not required at the moment. At the moment, what is important is something else. If you know that business context, you will always not be involved in any kind of these things. So I want to urge every designer to go and understand the business context. And they should spend some time with business leaders, product managers, and they should ask all the uncomfortable questions. The problem is that we don't believe in asking uncomfortable questions. You should ask uncomfortable questions like, why are we doing this? And I'm telling you, if you start asking uncomfortable questions, that person will not be having answer. Now he will start pushing his boundaries and he will start trying to find those questions, and in some time you will have that conducive environment when everyone is doing every single thing. So by doing this, you will be able to reduce the friction between the team. I don't believe you should fight only on design. Design is subjective, it's going to be.
Fantastic. I think once again, brilliant advice. Instead of talking the stakeholders' language, people start getting very personal about, hey, I know design and this font and type and color is the trend, and I think we should go with this style, without backing up with the why. And that's what really annoys sometimes. People say, wow, okay, if it's just about that, is listen to me and do it, because you clearly don't understand you don't understand the responsibility on my shoulder. So that I think leads to a lot of frustration between the two. So I think that's some brilliant advice. We are almost at our time now, so I want to kind of hop into the last section. We spoke a lot about ownership, what you look for. And I feel the fundamental task from a cultural standpoint for any leader is to make sure that the team feels ownership, like it's their own. You said that you want them to be owners, but if you want to set up a culture or a design management philosophy where accountability and ownership are, core part of, what if I'm a design manager and I see my team is not having ownership or a lot of care, what can I do to bring about this culture in the team?
Yeah, that's very important. So in our day-to-day task, we forget about the culture. We sometimes we forget about the culture, because the culture is also very important. So when I was initially trying to scale my design team, one of the things which I really took care of is that providing that space where they can feel safe about experimenting, failing, learning, and growing. Right? Sometimes you don't have that environment where you feel that, hey, what if I fail? Right? If you provide that environment where your designers are dared to fail, but they have to fail fast. They cannot wait. You don't want that time to be wasted. You want your designer to fail fast, experiment within the given, as we discussed earlier, within the given conditions, and they have to learn. And again, once you can commit mistake at once, right? You know that this time I learned this, next time you are not going to make this thing again. So in order to create a very productive design team, you need to hear your designers as well. You have to provide them that secure place there where they feel that, hey, I can grow here, I can learn here. And the last thing would be, again, it's all about collaboration within the team. If the all the team members don't feel safe with each other, again, this will be a problem. They should not feel scared about, hey, if I'm not gonna do this, he will take this job. No, they should not be the environment, right? Everyone should feel that they're gonna work together for a longer period of time, and everyone will win. Like eventually, everyone will win. And if you are providing one hero product to someone to work on, you should know when it's good time to rotate. Like everyone should get that hero project to work on, right? You always have one project, right, which is a hero project where you get most of the appreciations. So these are the few things. Along with, we conduct yearly hackathons, we conduct yearly ideathons. You can work on your hobby projects as well. We provide that space so that your innovation, your creativities are alive. We believe in nurturing them. We want to hear the ideas as well, because if you have something interesting which can be integrated in the business, wow, that's great.
Superb. I absolutely love your point on, people are really scared to fail, and that's why they have less accountability and ownership, because they're like, Chhodna, I might as well just, do what I have to do and go home and, get my small increment every year. But it's the ambitious and exciting people who want to try things. And, I think all successful people have failed more than they've succeeded. I always believe in that. You just hear the success. So everybody thinks, yaar, wow, you have to be right all the time. So I think what you said is brilliant advice for a lot of design managers. And I think there is this, because of maybe movies or maybe I don't know what, there's always this assumption that, design managers are these really, fancy people who come in, if you don't do a good job, they'll be like, get out of the room. Vibe a lot of people feel, especially in the ad world in the 60s, 70s and 80s, that was a trend, right? You see. And even Devil Wears Prada, if you've seen, the way Meryl Streep kind of acts in terms of, hey, I am like a design manager and I know what to do. People get very hesitant, or a lot of people try to mimic that. So I think that never works out. And I think what you kind of, articulated are some brilliant points for any manager. I want to now jump into the last part. And I know you've been giving a lot of insights, a lot of advice, but as a closing thought, could you maybe give any young designer, who's maybe just starting their career, advice on what they can do to eventually wear your shoes, right? Become a design leader of a leading company one day?
Yeah, the other than learning all the tools, I would say that stay curious and embrace a mindset of continuous learning. Like design is not just about creating beautiful visuals. It's about solving real problems and creating meaningful experiences. The tools and trends will evolve, right? But your ability to emphasize with users, think critically, will not change, right? So previously we used to use Photoshop, then we jumped into XD, then Figma. It keeps on changing, right? It will keep on changing. But your mindset should not be changed. You have to that curious person in the room asking right questions. And since tools are ever evolving, you have to have that mindset of continuous learning as well. Along with that, I would say that collaboration is very important. Like the design cannot be done in silos. So if early in your career you learn to collaborate, that will be really, really great. Right? And the last thing I would say, that never lose your sense of wonder. The best designers are those who stay curious, passionate, and no matter how much they grow in their career. So, yeah, that's what I believe in.
Fantastic, fantastic. I think that's a great point to end the podcast on. Thank you so much, Gopal. I hope you had a good time.
Yeah. I had a
Superb,
great time.
superb.
Yeah.
Fantastic. No, I think there was some back and forth, but I'm finally glad we did this conversation. So thank you once again so much for being a guest on the podcast. For everybody who's stuck along, thank you so much for tuning in. If you'd like to hear another fantastic design leader, do like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. We'll have another episode coming out very, very soon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.